What is up, Healthcare Squad? Logan here with Healthcare Stress Relief, and in this video I'm going to cover the 8 things I wish I knew before I was a registered nurse. For those of you who are returning, you know my story, but for those of you who are new, I was a registered nurse in the ICU for 2 years, and I personally burnt out, developed some pretty severe conditions, and I ended up leaving the bedside. I'm making this video because I know a lot of people, we talk about how great nursing is, how much opportunity there is out there. If you are trying to be a nurse or you already are, chances are it runs in your family or something happened in your life where it impacted you in a way to where you want to go and care for others. And don't get me wrong, nursing is an extremely amazing profession. But as always in this channel, I want to bring full transparency, and I want to make you guys aware of some of the things that they don't talk about in nursing school and in nursing. One of the big things in relation to healthcare is not talking about your feelings, because you have to always show up and give 120% so you can save people's lives and keep them healthy. But the issue with that is if we don't talk about the bad in the profession, then changes are never made. So I'm making this video to relate to the nurses who are in it right now and to also help educate the newer nurses. So if this is you, stick around to the end so you can get all 8 points, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Let's get into it. The 8 things I wish I knew before becoming a registered nurse. And just to preface this video, this is related to bedside nursing. I only worked at the bedside, and bedside nursing is usually, most people would say, the most stressful. Number 1, you are a professional at many things. Now, although this might sound good, which it is because you have a lot of hats you have to wear, gives you a skill set. The hard part about nursing is you are a lawyer, because you have to know the law, you have to chart. You are a teacher, you have to constantly be on top of your game, and you have to educate your patients. You are an engineer. If something happens to a patient's IV line, you have to figure out a way to fix it. You are a social worker, you have to print out paperwork for the discharge, and you have to talk about where the patient's going, and you have to talk to them about their issues. You are a minister, you have to be there when somebody is dying and you have to give them hope. You are a therapist, you get to listen to the patient's life issues and you have to help them through it. You are a glorified waitress. You have to run around and grab whatever the patient's family, whatever they wanted, you have to go get that for them. And usually you have to do it before you do something else for your other patient. Otherwise, the family member will be standing outside the door looking at you with a scoff on their face and their arms crossed. And you are a manager. You are a professional delegator. You have to manage other people. You have to collaborate with respiratory therapy. You have to collaborate with the doctor. You have to delegate to other people who are also working with you. Shout out to the CNAs. And you have to manage everything. So although this may sound absolutely amazing to be able to build a skill set in so many things, what makes it difficult is you become a professional multitasker, which is really hard on the brain. And you have so many things that you're responsible for, and this leads to very high levels of stress. When you look at most professions, you have a CEO, you have a secretary, the list goes on. Each person has a specified role. But as a registered nurse, you are everything. Obviously, the doctor has a specific role. Respiratory therapy has a specific role. OT, speech therapy, they all have specific roles. But the nurse especially has to advocate for the patient, take care of them, make sure that the family setting is okay. You are the advocate for everything. This can play a tremendous toll on your mental health. Number 2, you will be with people during the worst times in their life. You'll be with family members who walk into the hospital and for the first time see their beloved grandfather on a ventilator looking terrible. And you have to watch that energy. You have to see the change. You have to see them crying, how they cope, how the patients cope. Patients can be very, very, very violent depending on their condition. alcoholics in particular. If you work in emergency or ICU, you will have a fair share of people who are very nasty. And when you're with people during their worst times, you can see really bad things in humanity. This is where a lot of jadedness comes from in healthcare, is seeing people like this who are sick. Some of them have massive trauma, victimhood, a lot of things that when you're around this person and their energy, it can take a huge toll on you. People in society that you normally wouldn't spend time with, you have to spend time with, and you have to give them very good quality care. And I can describe for you how bad people can really get, but you don't really know until you see it. Until you see people taking advantage of their older grandma for money. Until you see a guy who has a wife and 2 girlfriends, and all of them come into the hospital at the same time and they start arguing, and you have to deal with it. These are crazy scenarios that you cannot make up. If you're a nurse, you know. Number 3, bullying in healthcare is a huge issue. I have a video on this. You can check it out here. There are so many reasons that bullying exists, and in my opinion, it is related to such a stressful work environment. And oftentimes the people who aren't taking really good care of themselves and who maybe hate their life, hate their jobs, they don't have hobbies, they will pick on other coworkers. It's in every part of healthcare. It's a human condition, but it's really, really, really bad in healthcare. And I'm telling you this not to scare you, but to tell you that you need to learn to become more assertive. And we talk about this in my program, the difference between passivity, aggressiveness, and then the in-between, assertiveness. When you are assertive, you are confident, and you know your boundaries and your needs. And when you become assertive, you can navigate healthcare much easier. But if you're a very passive person, healthcare is going to be really hard for you, because not only is the whole entire shift going to be difficult on some days, but if a coworker does something that you don't like and you don't say anything about it and you don't clear the air, you will go home and you will think about it all day. And then the next day you'll go to work and you'll think about it. And then the next day you'll go to work and you'll think about it. And the person that committed the act doesn't even know that they did something wrong because you're too afraid to speak up. I'm making this point on bullying because bullying needs to stop in healthcare. And the way to stop it is to become more assertive, to become a leader, and to not allow it to happen in your workplace. But you first have to be able to speak up against it. I was bullied personally in my first job ever. The guy was a complete asshole. He schmoozed management, and then behind their backs he would curse out the new nurses. The list goes on with how bad this guy was, but I wasn't assertive enough back then to do anything about it. I could have had an opportunity to get him fired so he would stop doing that in the future, but I was too scared. So I'm telling you this so you can learn assertiveness. Number 4, I like this one, but it can be stressful. The learning does not stop. You have CEUs you have to complete every 2 years. You have in-services you have to go to. Management is always calling you to a staff meeting to learn new stuff. You have new products coming out for the patients that you have to learn about. And then if you want to advance your career, you're going to either have to go back to school or you're going to have to take some courses in order to develop professionally. I love learning, but I did find when I was working in the ICU, they were stacking so much information on us. It was ridiculous. Don't get me wrong, I wanted to become the best nurse possible, but when you have all these staff meetings, you just work 3 days in a row, you have an in-service, it's really hard to keep up with. And then you have management barking at you because you're not getting it done quick enough. And you're like, look, I'm really stressed. And they're like, look, I don't care. You have to get it done or we're going to have to talk to HR. So just know that the learning doesn't stop if you're at the bedside. There's going to be more requirements than just working 36 hours a week. Number 5, burnout, compassion fatigue, and PTSD are very real things in healthcare. And what you will find once you learn about these things and you understand them is many of your coworkers are dealing with it, and many of them do not get help. As a healthcare professional, you are going to see things that you wish you never saw. I still remember the name and the face of the first man that I put in a body bag. I still remember the first patient that coded on me and we couldn't save him. I still remember the time that guy came in with a cardiac arrest and the doctor went to intubate him and he spewed blood all over the room. There were 16 people in the room. Nobody got hit with the blood. I still remember the first time I gave CPR and had to crack an old 90-year-old woman's ribs when she wanted to be a DNR, but her family made sure that we performed CPR on her. These kinds of things are very real, and the reason I'm telling you this is because when you go into this profession, when you choose to be a nurse and work bedside and go into the ICU or emergency departments, I want you to know about this so that you can prevent issues from happening, so you don't burn out like me. I saw so many of my coworkers with health issues, physical issues, hating their lives. And it all stems from them not taking their foot off the gas pedal and them not asking for help and them not asking for time off and for them not going to a psychologist to help them through the compassion fatigue or the burnout. And I remember vividly walking a patient to get a scan after he started bleeding out and his neurological status changed, and leaving my body. And these kinds of things, they can stay with you. That's why I started the Bye Bye Burnout program, so we can help healthcare workers process their emotions and build this skill set so that when these situations do come up, you can move past them. And if you already are burnt out and you already are just exhausted and jaded and have no purpose in your life, then I urge you to book a call. The link will be in the comments. We can chat for a little bit and I am here to help. Number 6, this is a good one. Very, very diverse profession. I had no idea before going in. I had really no idea in nursing school. And when I got out and started working, I started to begin to realize that there was a lot you could do. But I was just thinking in the bedside. And when I left the profession completely, became an RNpreneur, I realized that there is a lot out there that you can do. You can be an aesthetic nurse, you can do outpatient, you can do tons of travel nursing, cruise ship nursing, you can be a farm rep, you can be a rep for medical products. The list goes on. And the reason I'm bringing this up for you is to start thinking about it now. What do you want to do? What are the avenues you can go down? I have a video here about 20 non-bedside nursing positions, so go ahead and check that out. Number 7, your job can become your identity. If this is you, and I'll explain it in a second, what I found with nurses in particular is their job becomes their identity. You can see it on Instagram. Most nurses, myself included, we have RN, BSN next to our names. We really like to show it off because, to be honest, being a nurse is awesome. There's a lot of good things about the profession. We as nurses often have a lot of passion and pride. It's almost like in Harry Potter how everyone likes Gryffindor. That's how nurses feel. All the people who aren't Gryffindors, the doctors, the RTs, the paramedics, they find them kind of annoying. But to be a Gryffindor can be pretty fun. Now, the big issue that I found with a lot of nurses is the job becomes your identity. You only spend time with other nurses. You only engage in learning related to nursing. You cannot ever leave your current workplace because you're so identified with it. Your only friends are nurses. This identity issue can become a huge problem because if you want to make changes in your life, you are so attached to the identity of being an RN at this hospital in this department that when you do need to make a change, it feels like you're dying and being reborn. And most people don't like that feeling. So don't let the profession of nursing consume you as I am this nurse and I must be this amazing person that everyone respects and my family adores me because I'm a nurse. Like, don't let that be you, because if you get too caught in the identity, and this goes with anything, if you identify too much with something, it can often cause problems in the future. And finally, number 8, the scheduling is absolutely horrendous. I can't even begin to tell you how terrible the scheduling is. I'll start with the good. You can work 3-4 days in a row, and because of how the scheduling works, you can end up having a week off. And I know a lot of you who aren't in healthcare who are watching this are like, why would you ever complain? That sounds amazing. Well, I'm saying it's not fun because if you work a 12-hour shift, which usually ends up being 13 to 14 hours depending on your commute time and how long you had to stay after for charting, it is not easy on the body. Oftentimes, if you work 3 or 4 in a row, that next day that you have off, you spend in bed all day just recovering. So you lose that day. On those 3 days that you're working, you have no time to come home and cook. You have no time to really do anything. And this leads me to the next point with the scheduling. A lot of people, they don't have set schedules. Their schedule changes every month. That's not good on your body at all because your body can't get into a rhythm. And on top of this, you have to work the weekends, you have to work holidays, and it can be really hard. And this goes back to the identity thing. A reason that a lot of nurses probably spend so much time together is because, even on the holidays, they can't spend time with their family because they have to work. And they can't go out with their friends on the weekend because they have to work. So the scheduling with bedside can be really hard because it's not a typical 9 to 5. You can't go work out when you get off your shift because you've been awake for 14 hours. Let me know what you think about this topic. What do you wish you knew before becoming a nurse? What do you want to know now if you're thinking about becoming one? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're at it, go ahead and check out this video over here on a patient dying on my watch. I tell the story about how when I was walking this patient to the scan, I come out of my body and how to handle this. So go ahead and check that out, and I'll see you in the next video.